Don't let down to earth say your grass is dying and this is rain they create. This is Mother Nature. You give them no credit for the rain. Okay. We're going to have an open discussion on several points that really were raised by both Down to Earth and the residents. The points that we're planning to cover are, we're going to talk about pests in the soil. We're going to talk about lawn and turf problems. We're going to talk about our current work order system. Is it effective? Is it working? Are we all happy with it? We're also going to review the landscape matrix, which you all know is a way that we rehab and refurbish the properties in the community. We are also going to talk about the weekly process of maintaining and detailing the community. So those will be the topics we're discussing. What we'd like is to invite your questions after the presentation, and if you could keep them in relation to the community in whole, that would be much better. If you have individual concerns, this is really not the place to address your dead plant next to the left tree where the leaves are falling off. Okay? So with that, I want to introduce Joe. What's your name? Harold Bruden, the chair of the Landscape Committee. This is Jason. And we have some other members of the Landscape Committee. There's Irene. Put your hand up. And what's your name?
I forget.
Bob. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Harold. Irene, you're going to be the runner tonight.
Good evening, folks. We're here today to talk about brown patch in your yards, nematodes, and some work order issues, and the process that we're going to have for turning over what we call pour in the fair right now for the landscaping of the community. And then, of course, we'll do a brief on the weekly process for landscaping, what to expect during the spring and the summertime. So for right now, I'm going to hand over the mic to Jason so he can talk about the brown patch and the nematodes.
Can everybody hear me through this? Because I can't hear myself.
Yes.
Okay. So as you drive through the community and you see some what used to be yellow or orange rings, and now they look more of a dull gray or tan color, you can definitely tell it's a circle or maybe an oblong. That's called Rhizoctonia solani, and it is a fungus that's formed from a pathogen that's born in the soil. So this is a soil-borne illness. It's always prevalent in the soil. It doesn't always show itself. It only shows itself when the weather conditions reach optimum levels for this fungus to start growing from the pathogen. There are a couple of clients, homeowners in here that I've met with that have said they've replaced their turf 2-3 times only to see the same issue reappear. That's the reason why, because the pathogen actually lives in the soil. So when you have your grass taken up and you put new grass down, you haven't really solved the issue. You're basically putting a Band-Aid on something much deeper than that. It has been scuttlebutt, I guess, for years that, well, if you just pound the soil with fungicides, can you not get rid of this pathogen? It's a 50-50. You may be able to, you probably won't. Not to mention the fact that the fungicides that we use have a annual maximum amount that you're allowed to put down. Once you cross that amount, you're breaking the law. And it's also not really ecologically or economically responsible to do that. The best thing to do is to try to get a little bit proactive about it. I've only been on this property for 7 or 8 months now, so this is the first time I've seen these crop circles appear. But now that I know where it's more prevalent, going into the next season when the large patch is going to show itself, I can possibly get a stranglehold on it by applying some fungicides prior to the time of the year when the temperatures and the humidity levels are just right. I'm not making any promises, but I will do my due diligence and give it my best effort. On the nematodes, a lot of people think of nematodes as being nothing but harmful, and that's far from the truth. They are actually beneficial. If you didn't have beneficial nematodes in your soil, you wouldn't have anything alive around here. There's harmful nematodes, there's beneficial nematodes. The only way to tell if you have harmful nematodes that are at a level where they're going to actually start to do damage to plants or turf is to do what's called an assay. And it's basically like doing a soil sample, but instead of sending it to one laboratory to find out what your pH is or what your micronutrient levels are, you send it off to a different lab where they put it under a microscope and they actually find nematodes. A lot of times when your plants start to turn yellow, some people might go on get their Google doctorate and go online and think that we have nematodes here. There are many reasons why your leaves on your plants may turn yellow and drop off. It could be too much water, not enough water, over-fertilized, under-fertilized, and of course there's always the possibility that you have root knot nematodes in the soil. So I would just, if you can just take a deep breath when you see something going awry, try to use IssueTrack. I've had a number of clients or homeowners in the neighborhood approach me while I've been on property and say that they're having a problem with it. I've given them my card. I've got a stack of cards here tonight because the last thing I want is for somebody to feel like they're, talking to a black hole and not getting any results back. So if you're having something, I would rather you use IssueTrack because that's...
Jason, excuse me.
Yes.
Most people don't know what IssueTrack is. Just call it the work order system.
The work order system. We call it IssueTrack. It's a language barrier there. So that's what we would prefer, but I always would like for you to have a backup system where if you call me directly, I can get the ball rolling. So I guess we're going to do Q&A at the end of the meeting, but that's what I have to speak on tonight as far as the large patch and the nematodes. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to discuss the work order situation where we're going to be going into fair and poor, installing plants. We've done some installs lately, and we just haven't had very good communication. So basically, this is how we're going to go into the installation and before the installation. So Peter, if everybody knows Peter, will provide each section with the location of homes, with the palette and the selection of plants and why they're going in that section. This will be sent out every Friday for a month. So it should have plenty of time, so if someone's on vacation or if they're not around, they'll be able to get in their email and should be able to respond. After that month of weekly emails, the process will be complete. The homeowner does not reply. The landscaping will be planted per Peter's proposal. If the homeowner wants to discuss the location and the plants, they will need to submit a work order with a work order system in place. Peter will come out and discuss the homeowner's, I need some glasses, locations, plans, and attack of other possibilities for this work that's going to happen. The homeowner at the time also can refuse and accept options, but they do not on this. They must understand that during this, if they're going to do it themselves, they choose not to carry the down-to-earth warranty, which is typically lifetime on the plants as long as we're here.
How do you get on that list? Is it selected by you guys?
It is a list that we've gone through the community and pulled like 100 homes that need to be renovated, up to date, and we just go from that point. So there's an ongoing list, I believe.
What we did a year ago is we went around the community house by house, looking at every house from the front. We assessed them in terms of what they needed in terms of maintenance and put that onto an Excel maintenance spreadsheet we call the matrix. And then from that, we've already done the homes that were the worst. That was done at the end of last year, and now we're looking to go to the next group, which is the fair and the poor.
So we don't need to say, hey, I want mine done. You guys will
It's
do
already
it
there.
as needed.
Correct.
How do we know if a home is on that list?
Go to the front office, ask them, and they'll show you. Go to the front office, and they will show you.
So that should help with communication on what's being planted and why we're planting it and the particular plants that we're using for the community.
Excuse me, would it not be possible for you just to email that list
No,
to the
No.
residents?
no. Only the residents who are on that list will get the emails.
And then so initially you said there's a system where we have to submit the requests, right?
Yeah.
And then you're saying, so what's going to happen at the request versus your matrix? Which one
Maggie,
has
we're,
priority?
excuse me, we're running ahead of ourselves here. Can you hold your question till we get to that part of the presentation? Okay?
Well, I heard two things now that are in conflict, but I will.
I'll give some clarification when you've finished.
So the idea that we have for this is the 100 homes that are going to be renovated, those homeowners will be notified by emails every single week for a month. Once everybody goes through and they make their decision of what they're fine with what we're going to do, or if they don't like what Peter has to say, basically after that, one more month it'll go by, and then we'll start planning and going into that situation of making sure everything's installed properly where everybody wants it. Peter's done a lot of time-consuming research and thought for these plants and for the locations of the homes. So sun, shade, northeast side of the house, everything is going to be planted to make sure that it does well. And we've picked some plants for certain areas that we know that we have nematodes, so that way they'll thrive a little bit better. Other than that, we're hoping that the system that we have in place will be really, really good from here on out, moving forward. There's going to be some tweaks, there's going to be some touches on it, but other than that, I think that's the best option that we have right now with a community this size.
Let me just give a summary of what the plan is as far as these. Obviously, we'd like to be able to do everybody's home, but that's not a practical proposition with 760 homes that still need to be done. So as Harold mentioned earlier, we went around and evaluated all 866 homes and put them into categories, which those that we felt that were the ones most in need. And those who are on the list to be done this time will be notified. There's going to be a separate mailing list provided. There are many other homes, and we sent out an email a couple of weeks ago asking for anyone who has specific needs, where they've lost plants or lost a tree or lost a bush, to put in a request at the front desk. We've got forms there to be filled in, and those homes will be dealt with on an individual basis. The rationale behind doing it this way is that our irrigation system has been in place now for 15 years, and much of it is beginning to fail. And so what we want to try to do is, as we do each one of these homes, and we will have done about 25% of them by the end of this year, we will also redo the irrigation system so that the drip line system, which feeds the plants and bushes, etc., is fully working, and that we don't have a constant battle of people sending in work orders, this isn't working, that isn't working, etc. So it's the most cost-efficient way of doing it for everybody's benefit in the long run.
All right, so I want to move into the work order system that you guys and we're using together as a community to make sure that requests, maybe data boys, whatever may come through, that everybody gets to see it, we're able to work together on getting this resolved. What we've noticed in the work order system is that we're not getting the proper information into the system first for us to come out. So basically all we ask is that there's an address, telephone number, it'll generate your email, and make sure you have your name on there. Now there are circumstances that that may not even request an address, but maybe just a location. But please put your name down, because we may have to come back to you or call you later and say, hey, we can't find this issue, where is it exactly? Perfect example, someone may be walking down the boulevard, sees a broken irrigation head. At that time when it's working, it's bubbling up beside it, we go out there and we can't generate the same issue. So we would need to contact that person and say, okay, can we meet you out there and so we can get it resolved? There's just certain things that will help us out. But on that circumstances, just put a location like from Shell to Falls on the south side of the road, in between the sidewalk and the curb. We can come out there and start investigating on that. So I've also found a couple this week in our work order system that's kind of improper. But I think it's just not knowing what the work order system is doing because they haven't had a response yet. So inputting a work order numerous times doesn't do anything except for just adds more clutter in the work order system. So we have one person that put in 7 work orders for the exact same thing. So if you just put one in, you'll be able to find it a little bit quicker and go that way. And again, there's some pamphlets up there on the table that if you guys take with you, you guys can kind of look at it and see what I'm talking about inside in the pamphlet. Okay. All right. But other than that, just the work order system works great as long as we're putting the right information inside of it. Names, address, telephone number, and what the location is, of course. All right. Going on to the weekly processes for the summer maintenance for South Shore Falls. Right now we're building up different teams that come in so that way we have enough people to get the detailed situation, which is trimming of the shrubs, lifting of trees up to a certain height and stuff like that during a 4-week rotation. We're going to do our best to get a 3-week rotation done with the Roundup. It's all weather permitting. If it rains a lot, we're never going to get caught up. So our biggest concern is, of course, is the crack weeds and the weeds that are going to be growing in the beds. So we'll have guys pulling and spraying those areas every single day for 3 weeks just to get caught up or just to get it knocked out during that time period. And of course, the trimming of the shrubs, like I said, 4-week rotation unless weather puts us back, and so it could be a 4.5. The mowing will be done as normal every week. The yards will be mowed, edged, weed eated. We may have to pull back on the edging for the soft edges, just so that we don't make the beds bigger than what they already are right now. Other than that, have any questions?
All right, let's open it for questions. Maggie, since we shut you down, you go ahead.
Okay. It seems to me that is, okay, somebody else.
This Irene,
Is
this
it
is her
on?
first.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah.
This is her first try, so give Maggie a hand.
Okay, this is what it would make sense to me. that if you publish the list, even though you don't want to do it, I am allowed to finish my question. If you publish the list, you will prevent 800 people from coming to the front desk and finding out if they are in the list, number one. Number two, if those same people may be submitting requests, which will increase the number that you have to deal with one by one, not knowing that they are in the list. It makes no sense to me that we're not able to share when we have website, when we have email, when we post it somewhere in there, for people to go look at it without requiring additional resources in the office. Right now, we are thin on resources, so it would help if we publish more information. Okay?
May I?
Maggie, I'll be happy to publish the list on condition that you answer all the questions. Because it's going to create more questions than it needs to. That's the problem.
It's going to create more requests.
No, it isn't. Because only the 90 odd people who are on that list will be notified about it, other than the people in this room today.
Well, the other 800.
But everybody has had a notice with a request that if they have a problem to put it in. And they will put their request in and they'll be dealt with. The 90 homes that are going to be refurbished they will receive separate emails telling them that they're going to be refurbished. We don't really want everybody to know what that list is. If you feel that it's necessary, it can always be done, but it's only good. From experience, we know that it's only going to create more work for us. That's the problem. We're trying to keep this in a manageable way. We're not hiding anything from anybody. We're informing the people who need to be informed. And we've learned from the history. When are we sending it, starting it? And then, well, first of all, we haven't approved the pricing yet from Down to Earth, but once that's been done, then everybody will be notified who is going to be handled in this manner.
So then, for now, people will be coming and asking, am I on that 100 list? Or that 90 list, yes or no?
Well, but most people don't know about it, except those people in this room now.
Well, they will know that they are not in the list, and therefore they need to submit a request if they have any.
But everybody's been asked to submit a request, irrespective of whether there are any lists or not. That's what we want people to do, is to submit a list if they have issues. That way we can handle them all. The front desk have a list of people who are scheduled to have their yards redone, and when they come to the front desk, they'll be advised accordingly. And we feel that's the best way to handle the situation at the present time. And believe me, from past experience, it will reduce the amount of work that we have to do.
Okay, can I just say one thing? It's going to lead to, well, why is this person getting this and I'm getting that, etc. And Peter has been very, very diligent in getting plans for each unit that is going to be worked on that are specifically for that unit. By the way, it's facing north, east, west, or south, and by other factors that will affect long-term the pieces that are being put in.
One other thing I just want to bring up. Don't confuse the two issues. There is a difference between submitting a work order for something you'd like taken care of and the upgrade of the property through the matrix. Two entirely separate functions.
You want to handle that?
The ARC guidelines say additions or removal of shrubs and trees require ARC approval. So in your case, even though it's in the back, you really should ask for ARC approval. Okay? I want to follow up on Mary's first question. Jason, are we also treating residential palms as well as the main palms on the street?
Yes, yes we are.
So Mary, your front palms should be taken care of, because I know that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's the only one that has any disease on it. But separately, I just wondered about changing the backs.
I think we're all experiencing difficulties with the oaks. Is there some type of a plan somewhere down the road to maybe get a billy goat or something of that nature that would come through that would, clean up the debris from the oaks. I mean, right now what's happening is a lot of it ends up in the grass, and then they cut the grass, and then they, you know, it seems to either get blown into the driveways, out of the driveways, into the street, but it never seems to really go away.
Well, typically with the oak leaves, and there's a lot of them here, especially the size of the homes, we try to chew them up and mulch them back into the soil. But there's a lot. So right now I'm trying to get with our crews in Lakewood Ranch and trying to get a leaf back, which is mounted into the back of the truck, so that way we can windrow it out by the street and come by and suck it up. Doesn't mean that it'll be spotless or it'll be raked out completely clean, just because really the oak leaves are great for azaleas, they're great for the plant material, they have a lot of acidity in it. They actually let the plants grow really well. It's just the turf. The turf, it starts building up, and we try to chew it up the best we can and get it to as small as possible. Let it break down faster. But yeah, that's what our plans are.
I got a question. We put in work orders last year and nothing was ever done. Peter came out one time, looked at the problem, said they'd be there to take care of it. Nobody ever showed up. We put in 3 different work orders after that, still nobody showed up. I've got growth coming out of the plants in the front of my house. They've grown right up tight to the house, and they're going up the wall, up into the soffit system. That's a lack of maintenance. And it don't get taken care of. What do we got to do to get taken care of? Do I have to go buy a Roundup and do it myself?
What's your address, sir?
What's that?
What's your address?
259 Silver Falls.
I will come out tomorrow and look at it.
Okay, I'll be gone tomorrow. There'll be nobody home.
I'll put a door hanger on the door. It says that I was there.
Okay,
and what
take a
we're gonna
look
do.
at the mess in front of the house.
Absolutely.
Yes, you mentioned earlier that you sent out invitation emails for us to submit our concerns, the work orders, or whatever. I submitted quite a few, and there was no response.
Because we're going to, as was explained in the email, they will be collected and dealt with on a street-by-street basis. And so you won't necessarily hear anything back straight away until we've got them all collected.
But there will be a response to what was submitted?
Yes. Ultimately, I can't promise.
It's been a while, so...
When did you do it? Because the email only went out about 2 weeks ago.
Excuse me?
The email only went out about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I looked on the South Shore Falls website, and I was unable to find a list of plants that are approved to be planted, whether we planted or you all planted, either one. Is there a list? At one time I had one, but I still have it, but I don't know if it's current, if it's outdated, and I was just wondering if maybe we could put that on the website under the landscape section, just for people who want to go buy a plant and put it out. They'll know.
We can do that.
If they buy something that's going to be, maintained by Down to Earth, or
We'll do that, Tammy.
Next.
Hi, I have 2 questions. I was just wondering if you have a plan yet for when mulch will be provided? And then my other one has to do with Brazilian pepper. I know there's budget to get rid of Brazilian pepper, and I'm wondering if that's something you're going to be doing, and if you know what season or whatever you're going to be doing it.
The mulching will probably be done in July, and the Brazilian pepper, are you talking about something behind your particular home?
Yes, well, in the conservation area,
Oh, all right. So you live on the walking trail?
Yes.
Okay, that's a significant budgetary item, and we have to make a decision as to when we're going to do that.
So that's not part of the 15,000 that's in the budget?
No, it's not. The 15,000 that's in the budget is for maintaining those areas that we've already done.
Who's next?
It's very, very, very expensive. Just to put it in perspective, I think that the contract for Lakewood Ranch for removing their Brazilian pepper was $3 million. So that gives you some idea of what it costs.
But if you remove one, when are you gonna come back and fix up what they tore up?
Well, there is a maintenance plan set up, which there's Down to Earth will be maintaining.
Hi. I have a couple of things. Do you do weekly property inspections? And that's drive down every street. Oh, you got palms that need to be cut off, you need landscaping that needs to be cleaned up. Do you do a weekly so that you can set your next week work priorities just in cleanup?
Peter does. I come in, I go down the streets, I visually look at things. We give it to the guys. A lot of times it's a lot of repetitive going back there, making sure that they touched it. Right now it's on the slower end. Summertime it'll be different because we'll have a lot of extra vehicles and people on site that'll be able to make it quicker and take care of what you're probably thinking more of the dead fronds that's fallen or hanging down from the palms.
I'm talking about everything.
So what we do now is that we cut the grass twice a month, and we're on a rotation right now with details almost 5.5 weeks for us to get back through.
All right. And with regards to landscaping waste pickup, when does that happen? Is that maybe something that might be noticed on your inspections?
That's not a down-to-earth function. That's a function of the town, of the county.
Okay, there are some things like...
Every Wednesday they come and they do it. It's not done right now.
Theoretically. They don't. I mean, it's erratic. I mean, I can tell you, I bagged the product in lawn and leaf bags, and it's been sitting in my driveway for almost 2 weeks.
It shouldn't be in your driveway. It's supposed to be put out on a Wednesday morning on the grass.
It was. It's been there. I mean, I'm not going to haul it back and put it in my garage because they didn't do their job.
Well, if you put it out and it's not collected, call the office and they will call the county and have someone come and pick it up, and they're usually pretty good about doing that.
We have, and they tell us, leave it out there, they promised us they're coming tomorrow, this is on Friday, they don't come.
But it's not supposed to be, but it's not supposed to be there on a Friday, it's supposed to be there on a Wednesday.
Yeah, it wasn't picked up on Wednesday.
All right, and they still, then you need to, every time you get a promise, I mean, it's not something that's within our control. It's the county that has the responsibility to do that, and if they don't come, all we can do, as we've done on many occasions, is call them and scream at them, and sometimes the screaming works and sometimes it doesn't. It's not something that's within our control. I regret the fact, but that's the reality of it. We can't do anything to force them to come out here and do it.
Then what do you do with it? Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you haul it back and forth, I mean, some of this is pretty heavy.
Right, when you should not have to do that. That's why I say call the office, and you won't get a problem from us if you leave it there, if we know that the county didn't come and pick it up. But you need to let the office know that you put it out and the county didn't pick it up, and that way then just leave it there until the county comes and picks it up. I know it's unsightly, but that's what has to be done.
But then they can't run. I mean, if it's sitting out, if it's sitting along the side. We ran into that last week too, and we called the county, and they were great to talk with and said they'd be there within 24 hours, but still didn't get it out.
But that's why you're better off to call the office, because the office has a little more leverage probably than you do.
Thank you.
One more thing, and that pertains to the same
tract or the same lot having one half have soil that has a fungus versus maybe the grass has a pH problem? It's the same piece of land, just half of it has got green grass and the other half doesn't. That can't be soil. It can't be. The developer put the same soil down when he laid out that tract of land. Just help me understand.
Just so that, I guess we're all on the same page, you're absolutely right. They probably took all the soil from where they dredged out the ponds and stuff to build the place up and put everything in here. Also, you have to take into consideration this lot, or this tract of land was cucumber farm. So we don't know, no one knows what was buried or what was dumped or what was put in the soil prior to them building. But also what we found out here too is that a lot of the soil doesn't drain as a house next door, or the house next door, or the house next door. We've noticed a lot of different things. But I understand what you're saying.
We're talking about a duplex. We share the same piece of grass.
Yep.
One half of the grass is green and wonderful, and the other half is as dead as a doornail.
Yep.
So
what's your address, ma'am?
313 Seneca Falls Drive. I invite you over for coffee.
Bribery.
So what I'll do is I'll go out there, I'll take collective samples of one half and the other half, and we'll send it off for that particular thing to see if there's any nutrients that are depleted or gone. Typically, what we've noticed out here is that your site has plenty of moisture, but when it goes away, it goes away. It like hardens up, the top of the soil hardens up. So the issue that tells me right away, it's no different than Baldwin Park in Orlando, is that when they built that property, they dredged and put all the soil to make their ponds in Baldwin Park, and we call it hydrophobia, which means that when that soil locks up,
There's no percolation.
there's nothing that will go through it, fertilizer, nothing, but we'll take samples of it and see where we're at. And that's a perfect example of the work order system. If you notice that there's an issue, because we may identify an issue next door, that it is fungus. It just hasn't got over to that side over
So
there.
if I were to put a work order in and say, please do a pH test on my grass, and I would say,
Thank you.
what planet did she fly in?
No, because that's how we kind of decide or our guesses of what's wrong with something outside, because everything's outside. It's Mother Nature. We don't know unless we start digging and we find out what's in the soil or inside that tissue. So yeah, no, it's very, we appreciate it when people call about that, because that way we can find out more about the community.
Bill, you had a question?
Yes, I had a couple. You answered one, the mulch, and I'm going to hold you to that. I've been without mulch since Irma. It was just a principle thing. I wasn't going to buy it when you're supposed to provide it. So
It will be done, don't worry.
I'm going to look for it in July. The nature trail was another thing. We kind of discussed it a little bit, but they did remove a Brazilian pepper, but is there a budget that has to be lived with to clean up after they tear one out?
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
so it's still in the works to get done.
Right.
It's been since September.
I think you're talking about the walking trail that backs onto Seneca Falls,
Yes,
where
yes.
we came in with a machine.
Tore up my backyard,
right.
and it's still sitting there tore up.
Right. I know that we've been back there a couple of times. Maybe we should go look at it again, see whether there's something else we can do. We tried to do things a little more efficiently with a machine. The problem was that the ground was too wet, and the result was that things got chewed up a little bit.
Yeah,
and I thought that some of that had been taken care of. Obviously, it hasn't. So,
No,
Joe,
since
can we
September, I've
look
got
at that?
10 emails. Nobody's ever showed up even talk.
Well, I've been there, so.
Okay. The main one for me, I have two lots. I have 442 and 444 Seneca Falls. In Irma, we lost both of our hibiscus. I understand, is it correct, you don't really want to put hibiscus back because they blow over too easily?
That's correct.
Right?
The trees.
What is going to be replaced instead of a hibiscus? Do I get anything, or is it just done?
No, you can put a work order in. That's what the email was a couple of weeks
But
ago.
I didn't know what to ask for because I just wanted my hibiscus
Well,
replaced. But found out
you're welcome. You can put hibiscus back if you wish, but the board is not accepting any responsibility because they'll just blow down again the next time we have a storm.
But I'm just curious, what would they replace it with?
What you can discuss that with Down to Earth, and we'll come up with something that is a suitable alternative.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have something, I don't know if I should have done it or not. We have a large oak tree on our property. My next door neighbor came over and rang my bell and said the roots of the tree were going under his house. These are pretty big roots. I took my chainsaw and I cut the roots before they went into the house. Also, the roots on the other, going under the sidewalk, it's lifted up the sidewalk and there's a big crack in that sidewalk. I don't know who's responsible for that.
If I can answer that. The oak trees are the homeowner's responsibility. The builder put them in there. The reason they put them in is because the county told them to. It's a very unfortunate situation, but it's not an HOA responsibility. If you want to have the tree removed, you can do so if you get a permit from the county and they arrange to have it removed. That's the way it's been for everybody. Many homeowners have done just that.
What about the sidewalk cracking?
That's our responsibility, and we will take care of that.
Will you replace what was there with something else?
Well,
if I pay to have my oak taken down, will you put a palm or something?
No.
to replace it?
Unfortunately, the way the system works, it's all on you.
It would be more helpful to the general group here if the questions were more generalized and not necessarily specifically for your property, because Peter and Joe will address those as you put work orders in for them. I'm looking around the whole room. Next question, please.
One more question about the lawn mowing. So they started, you said every 2 weeks, right? And is that the front and the back, or just the front?
So basically what they do is they cut your property line during that 2-week rotation. The week following that, when they're doing detail, we have one guy that cuts from the bottom of the pond up to the St. Augustine that way. So we do that for 2 reasons right now. One is that basically the bahia is really not growing that much, but also the weed that's growing in the bahia, we're trying not to spread it throughout the St. Augustine, so we try to keep those mowers inside the bahia for that rotation. This summer, that mower will have to be washed and sanitized before it gets back on St. Augustine. If not, we're going to have a lot of problems.
Well, this week when they mowed on Monday, and it's down Shell, all down by the lake, and then up to my front, they mowed up to the front of the landscaping, but they didn't mow the back of the house or down the side of the house at all. And they didn't mow, and so it looks really kind of silly, you know?
So what you're saying is they cut certain parts of your yard, but not the whole yard?
They basically just cut the little front portion of it by the sidewalk and the street where that grass is.
What's your house number, Michelle?
189.
All right.
And then if we get this new mulch, how is the mulch going to get blown into the back of the property?
Well, we haven't made a decision yet whether we're going to go with blown mulch or bag mulch.
Okay. Because that'd be hard to get equipment back there, I would think. Like
Well, I don't know if you saw them doing it, but they have very long hoses, which they carry on their shoulder and go around, and they can do it at the back just as easily.
On the boulevard, I'm on the boulevard, you know where I am,
Yeah.
Ron, and so the front side got covered perfect, but it didn't blow through to our side.
Well, I don't know that was intended or not. I mean, they were only supposed to do a certain footage in from the street, so they may not have gone that far. I mean, they physically have to walk there and do it. They just have a hose over their shoulders, which they carry in and blow it in.
This is going to be specific to my property, but while you're soil sampling 313 Seneca, could you soil sample 322 Seneca?
Yeah.
I have never, ever had a yard since I've been here. In 2 years, you've replaced it 3 times and the grass never grows. Never. I don't know what it is. The oak tree is now down, so hopefully that will help. But sample mine too, please.
Did it green up at all after that fertilizer I put down there?
No.
Not even a little bit?
Not even a little bit.
So this is good, but remember, go to the work order system and put it in as well.
Okay.
But I will take these addresses and look at them myself tomorrow and do what I need to do. But I just, from now on, just make sure we please use the work order system.
Joe, could you explain for myself and the rest of you people here, and I know we've discussed it in a meeting, the difference of what Down to Earth will stand behind guarantee, not guarantee, in terms of who puts what in where?
So basically what we do as a company, if we install any plant material, we do a lot of things. We check the soils, we do a lot of research, we make sure that whatever we're going to put in is going to survive. After that point, once we put it in, we basically give our communities what we call a lifetime guarantee on that plant. So if that plant dies during the time of our care, we'll just come out and replace it, or if it's a whole batch of them dying, we misdiagnose the situation, we'll just replace the plant totally and go back in with another group of plants. But that's something that we do for all our customers on all our properties. We kind of look at it this way: if we're fertilizing and we're taking care of plants that we install, they better be 100% all the time. I mean, that's the way we look at it.
What are the guarantees or warranties?
The warranty is just lifetime. So like if you install your plant yourself, we're not going to warranty that plant because it may be the wrong plant. And we'll explain why. But also another thing is like, someone asked a question back was, well, why aren't we replacing all the plants in the community? Well, there's a shelf life for plants as well, which means that over, say, 10, 12, 15 years, maybe some of them are 8 years, it's time to swap out. It's time to remove and replace. So we would not come in and do what we're doing now for the community because it's something that needs to be done. I mean, the property looks great for as old as it is, but there's a lot of modifications that need to happen. The drip tubing is being choked out by the trees that were wrapped, which means that we're getting lower volume of water for the plant material. And then, of course, just the plants alone. I mean, it's old, outdated plants, and there's new, greater, better things that have been grown or propagated or put out on the market these days. But just, like I said, just always remember, if we install it, especially under this contract, we will take care of it. We have no issues. We've gone to numerous homes. I think last week Peter went and removed a bunch of plumbago or boar petal and put another plant in. I think some pink muley grass. That's going to do good in that area. He just went and got the plants, removed them, and put them in. I mean, so those are the things that we typically try to do for the community.
If we get the permits and the approvals to take out an oak tree, have it cut down and removed, can we hire Down to Earth to put a palm tree in? Will you do it for
we have to follow. Yeah, we have to follow the county codes. So if you remove a shade tree in the front, you have to put a shade tree back. Unfortunately, that's just because this property was a cucumber farm. there was no trees on it. And, you know, when they look at it, the more trees we put out, the better air quality we're gonna have, carbon monoxide and all that stuff. So we have to replace it back. It may not have to be with the oak. It could be a different tree, but those are the things that we have to follow. We have to follow the county guidelines.
I'd just like to add something to what Joe just said about the quality of the plants and the state of the plants. One of the problems we've had from a budgetary standpoint is the fact that this community is now 15 years old. And when the developers build these sites, they build them for instant satisfaction, so that when somebody comes in here 6 months after they've started to develop it, everything looks wonderful. You know, the budget for this site, when Centex were here and they built about 100 homes, was about $1 million a year for landscaping. So they put a great deal of money in, but it was done in a way that provided instant gratification. The plants that they put in are now, in many cases, both in the common areas and in the individual homes, have got to the end of their useful life. And it's a fact of life that we need to replace a huge percentage of the plants and shrubs and whatever that are in this community. And that's an enormous amount of money. So we're trying to do it in the most efficient way that we possibly can. If we did it in the most efficient way, we would have a lot of very, very, very unhappy residents, because we won't be able to touch their yards except in lumps of 50 or 60 at a time over a period of 4 or 5 years. And that's not simply a practical way of doing it. So we're trying to do a combination of that, and doing a bunch of homes each year, and at the same time dealing with individual homes who need a plant here and a bush there, a tree here to be replaced, so that we try and keep everything going. But it's not going to be easy. We've had to put a stop on doing things in the common areas because we simply don't have the budget to do it. But unfortunately, when you go and look out the front here, all of the hedges along the edge here and whatever, they're all very twiggy at the bottom with no leaves and whatever. They all need to be replaced. But we're talking tens of thousands of dollars just to do a small area in the front of the clubhouse here. So we have to find a way of doing it economically. Unfortunately, it means that we're never, ever going to be able to satisfy everybody with everything. It just isn't a practical proposition for us to be able to do that.
Sorry, Ron, but does that allow us, with our approval, to be able to hire DTE to put plants in for us at our own cost?
Of course.
Okay. Next question? Oh, Joe.
Yes. I want to announce a new service that Down to Earth doesn't know they're even going to handle. Ronnie, I signed the contract, but I found a snake on my front peg. So Down to Earth will now handle all snake removal. If you have snakes, you can call Harold direct with your request, and he'll get a hold of Joe. Honey, sit down. Thank you so much. I know you like snakes. Carol, this is not the newlywed game. Sit down. Seriously, I want to thank everybody for coming out. And I want to thank the residents, really, who maintained, for the most part, great community-oriented questions. That's what we need. Down to Earth, remember, they're not miracle workers, but they've tried very, very hard to accommodate us, and every now and then, one of us is not going to be so happy, and that's why you have Harold. Please direct all comments to Harold. Okay? Joe, Jason, Harold, thank you very much for your participation. Have a good evening, everybody.